Welcome to the BYU Tech Transfer Podcast. I'm Dave Brown. I'm here today with Tracy Lee from Arizona State University. We have a big football game coming up this week, but there are a lot of other great things to talk about with our universities, including entrepreneurship and tech transfer and all the things that go with them. So, Tracy, would you mind telling us a little about your office and your role there?
Sure. I'm Director of Venture Development for the long title, the J. Orrin Edson Entrepreneurship and Innovation Institute at ASU. We call it Edson E&I for short. I've been with ASU, it'll be 12 years in January. And in my role, I support our student faculty, community founders, all stages of development, all verticals and industries. I help co-found a program called Venture Devils, which supports those students, faculty, and community. And then I've pivoted my role over the last 15, 16 months or so to really carve out support for faculty-led ventures and more broadly, commercialization of ASU IP. So we were getting feedback from our faculty that Venture Devils is really more student-centric. So we pivoted that to really focus on the student experience with Venture Devils. And then I've been really enjoying carving out all the faculty-led programming and ASU commercialization of IP in a lot of really fascinating areas.
Okay. Well, that's super interesting. At many universities here at BYU, we have the Rollins Center, which is entrepreneurship and focused on students. And then we have tech transfer where we kind of do, engage with faculty on startups. But it sounds like we'll talk about SkySong in a minute, but you have tech transfer off campus. So you're an all service entrepreneurship office, right?
That's correct. And actually, we're positioned under Knowledge Enterprise. So we're a non-academic unit at ASU. We really serve Pan University. And so we interface with all colleges and schools and all different areas of ASU and, of course, our external ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And you typically think when you're thinking entrepreneurship, you think maybe the business school, maybe the STEM colleges, but it sounds like you get things from all over, right?
Indeed. And we do have those entities at WP Carey School of Business. We have entrepreneurship, which is really thriving at Fulton Schools of Engineering and really broadly across ASU. But and that's why we're kind of agnostic and kind of sitting outside of those. We do a lot of collaborative activities across the university and really all bolster the work that we individually do to contribute to our entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Oh, that's terrific. So the Edson Center supports all these kinds of ventures. What are some recent startups that have been successful or kind of stories that would be fun to share?
Have a lot of really great stories. In fact, we had our Venture Devils demo day this past Saturday. We awarded close to 130,000 in non-dilutive seed funding, and a couple of students to highlight the work that they're doing. We had one that's working in gaming, and he already has 8 million subscribers to his platform. He won $30,000 as part of the Edson Student Entrepreneur Initiative. And, his aim is really accessibility. So how they can provide accessibility regardless of what type of platform or computer or disability, really wanting to unlock that for many users. And then we had some Allergy Voyage, which is they have really unique idea where they can filter out menu items that really suit someone who has concerns about allergies. And they announced that they're piloting their technology with Aramark across ASU. So it's really fun when we have these student ventures that are embedding now within ASU and really being able to pilot their technologies. And then we have some faculty that are working on really fascinating technology, one Homer Farms in particular, that takes waste from stadiums and others and converts it into fuel and to be able to grow vertical gardens. And so his food is featured in a lot of the restaurants across the valley and beyond.
Oh, that's great. And it's so fun for students and faculty to be able to see on campus physical versions of things they've actually made, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it really feels for the faculty that are doing that work. It really excites them to pass that on to their students and have their students really, bring up the entrepreneurial mindset. And for students to feel like they have that avenue as students, why they can leverage university resources and to actually see their ideas come to light. It's really fun.
Yeah, I always tell students here, especially in the entrepreneurship program, university is like a big accelerator. We have all these grants and things that are specific to students. It definitely sounds like Arizona State's the same way, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's part of one of our design aspirations at ASU of really valuing entrepreneurship. So you really do see it in every corner and crevice across the university.
That's great. And so your university is doing great and has been recognized for entrepreneurship. How do you foster that? Like, what are the tactics that your office would use to make this happen?
I think the main thing is really empowering the mindset. And also infusing that you don't have to launch a venture. That is certainly a pathway, but how We just encourage people to just launch, just get it started, have an idea, connect with others about those ideas, and really embedding that not only in the classroom across academia, but all the co-curricular activities we have of really fostering that aspect of you can try, just get it started. We're here to support you. We have, in fact, with Venture Devils, and this illustrates really how we embody this. We have our demo day, of course, but our precursor event is called Pitch Playoffs. And that's the avenue where whether you feel like you're ready to pitch or not, do it because you're going to get feedback, you're going to get resources and tools that help support you in that journey and really fostering that of keep going. We're here to really cast that wide net of access and support. And then we're also very, very collaborative. So it's never a top down or bottom up approach. It's really infused across all levels at ASU. And so we really have the flexibility led by our president, Michael Crow, who is such a visionary in this space and beyond. But it really allows us to freely engage in entrepreneurial endeavors, try new things all the time. We're always kind of startups ourselves. And so how we're also doing that customer discovery allows the students that we touch and the faculty and other community members to feel like they can, connect with us and engage with us. And we create wide access and opportunity for them.
Yeah, that's several interesting things there. So you mentioned being a startup yourself. We always say that in my office too. Like we're working with all these startups, we need to be innovative like they are. What are some ways that, you're in a large institution, every tech transfer office is really, and every, entrepreneurship center as well. So how do you maintain a startup mentality when you're in this really large organization?
Well, I think a couple things. So our tech transfer office, SkySong Innovations, actually sits outside of the university. We're part of ASU proper, but how we share information, how we leverage each other's unique abilities and expertise across that really helps to foster some of that. And really being able to draw on our collective aim of how we are advancing entrepreneurship. So, we're able to try and fail. There are things that we try based on feedback we receive constantly. We're always very willing to keep evolving. And so that's been really the key to the Institute's success over the last number of years and how we keep growing and scaling. But how we're all able to collectively not have a burden or a weight on a particular unit or entity, but how we're all really driving that together. But I think the key to that in entrepreneurship is being willing to fail, being willing to try some things. And we don't wait for the next academic year or cycle. So if we want to pilot something, we just put a stake in the ground and we do it. And we get the feedback, we get the data points, we figure out what's working, what's not. But we really fostered that culture, and that is so incredibly important. If you put restrictions on people, if you don't empower them, if you don't encourage that and have alignment across of what you're trying to do, then people feel really thwarted in their ability to do that. And the heart of entrepreneurship is you've got to really kind of take the training wheels off and just go and see what happens. And that's what makes every day exciting. That's what makes our work really, really fulfilling.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. And it's kind of rare too, I think. You go to industry conferences and sometimes things seem very bureaucratic, very focused on best practices. But we do like you over here. We have a culture document where we specifically say we're going to make mistakes. We're going to do things that don't work, and that's fine. But inaction is a mistake we're not going to make. That's the real mistake, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%.
And you mentioned another thing that I thought was really interesting. So the pitch playoffs, this competition that I think you just had, you mentioned with the game team that won. That's early in the year. Most business plan competitions are going to be in March or April because there's this long drawn out process. But I'm picturing here like a quick pitch competition. How did that work?
Well, so Venture Devils Demo Day, we have that twice a year. So we have that in the fall and in the spring. We moved it up a little bit in the semester this year. It's typically at the end of the semester. And that's now led by my colleague, Dr. Lauren Dunning, who runs our student outreach and engagement since I've started working on the faculty piece. So we do have a couple of opportunities throughout the academic year for them to pitch for seed funding. Now, with the work with faculty, we started what's called Lab to Launch, and that's our venture competition for ASU IP, more faculty-led ventures. We do that in concert with Fulton Schools of Engineering, with SkySong Innovations. They do their venture challenges all in one, event that we host. We team up with InvestU, which is our ASU Thunderbird Angel Network, and corporate engagement. We bring a lot of folks to the table so that instead of doing these separate activities, we really have one larger kind of pass through of work that we're doing around that. So that's also hosted twice a year. We have that in October and March. And so we kind of have a staggered, we're very intentional on so for the student piece of it, the venture competitions, having them have some time throughout the semester. And if they haven't joined Venture Devils or other opportunities, they still have time in the spring. Similarly, for Lab to Launch, when it's more focused on faculty, that's an area that we have to really intentionally plan on when's going to be the best showcasing opportunity for them with the busy schedules and alignment across ASU. But it really gives a number of different opportunities for showcasing, for developmental pitches, for how we can also see these ventures that pitch in the fall, whether it's Lab to Launch or Venture Devils Demo Day, on how we can also be very intentional on support that we provide them post Demo Day so that our ventures can continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you're working with these student ventures and, like you say, with faculty ventures too, like multiple pitches, multiple opportunities to go through the whole process is really important. I was talking to Catherine Santa Maria at Rice Business Plan Competition, and we were just talking about how teams that have pitched multiple times, you can really tell they have it down.
Absolutely. And when you talk about kind of the fast pitch, to touch on that too, we do everything at scale. So when we had Demo Day this past Saturday, we had 52 ventures pitching across multiple funding tracks. And so our formula for that has been a 5-minute pitch, 5-minute Q&A, 5-minute transition time, because we accommodate so many ventures in one day. So, and it's a similar kind of format for our Lab to Launch event, but we really like to have the scalability piece of that. And so instead of limiting how many, ultimately we do have a cap on that, but we do want to be able to have a really wide net to be able to have the students also benefit from. Some of them didn't make it to Demo Day, but they can see pitches of those that did, and they learn from each other. And so I love hearing the stories when they didn't advance, they didn't get funding, they kept at it. And then when I get to award them that big check, it's so fun, to see that they kept with it.
No, that's good. Yeah, it is a process. So, and I keep mentioning tech transfer because that's where I'm at, and you're in a broader role, but you work with this entity SkySong, which is a little bit unique for ASU. Can you tell us about them?
Absolutely. Like I said, they are positioned outside of the university because ASU proper can't take equity, and there are some things that we aren't allowed to do because of state law. But SkySong Innovations can. And so it's critical also that we work very closely together, that we are working on from the invention disclosure for that faculty, how we can best inform them when to do that invention disclosure with tech transfer, when then the provisional patent is filed, to option agreements. And they just changed the option agreement arrangement based on the work that we're doing. So previously it was you would get 6 months of that option agreement for free. The other 6 months would be $2,500. Now they're doing a full-on year for free if they've participated in one of the programs that we built for our faculty specifically, or I-Core or other types of mechanisms. And so how we are trying to unencumber that process, how we're all working in tandem to make sure the faculty is best served, that we really get out of their way and let them create these amazing technologies that are coming out of our labs. And how when then we're also providing that support from my office to help grow them as ventures. And so we're doing a number of different things. We're launching a venture studio pilot next year. We're building a health cohort. We've got about 91 ventures in our faculty pipeline right now. We share that information with our tech transfer office and co-collaborate and co-create on these programs and opportunities so that it really rolls up to their metrics too. So how are we commercializing ASU IP? We invest a lot in developing these technologies, and it really it's meant to serve the community, right? It's meant to get out into the commercialization environment. So how we're able to help build all of this pipeline and help develop this pipeline is really, really critical. And that also rolls up to the success of our tech transfer office and filing these patents and commercializing these technologies, licensing out these technologies. It's a big universe that we are, working with, but it's really important that we also find the right talent to be able to connect with faculty, resources at the right time, how we can have earlier interventions on commercialization pathways, really help illustrate ways that we can go to market quicker.
Okay, so I'm picturing if a professor invents something, if it's something where they say, "Look, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. This is something I need to disclose." It sounds like they might send that directly to SkySong. But if they're interested in an entrepreneur or their grad student is or something like that, they're going to come by your office. and say, okay, how do we set up an enterprise? Is that about how it goes?
Absolutely. And it works both ways. So sometimes they come through the door with Sky Song Innovations first, and then Sky Song Innovations will let us know, hey, we have this faculty venture. We know you have mentoring and programming and a number of different things that we attach and support. And it also works the other way. They may come through the door with us and may not have had the introduction yet with our tech transfer office. That's really important too. But then we work with them on, advancing that. And we've got an inventor series that we developed with two of our venture mentors specifically for faculty. And that's really, in the area of we have an idea, maybe proof of concept, prototype, but how do we operationalize that into a go-to-market strategy? And that's where the faculty, they're brilliant with the research and their areas of expertise. But how do we help illustrate what the other side of that looks like? And so some of that is very new for them. And for others, they've, had more of that entrepreneurial mindset already embedded. But either way, we're here to support and help them kind of facilitate going through the TRL, stages of TRL and how do they get to that commercialization environment. And then there's some that realize, they're the technical expertise, but how do we really help bolster the team so that it can spin off into a successful venture?
Yeah, this is so great for people to hear because people sometimes assume that business units in a university are going to be very focused on finance, but that's not my experience at all. It's like we're like your office where it's really a faculty service. We're trying to help people with whatever it is they need. And you mentioned a minute ago, you mentioned that you're working on a venture studio pilot. I'm super interested in venture studios. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And you're seeing a lot of that crop up. It's not a new concept per se, but you're seeing a lot more activity in this arena. And it's really about taking that venture. How do you de-risk the technology? How do you help them really convert that from, early product development, MVP? But that looks very different when you're actually wanting to manufacture that product or get that, that technology to market. There's a lot of risk involved with that can be very lucrative for investors, but can also be very, kind of scary at the same time if you're not helping to de-risk that. And what that means is how are you proving out the technology they developed for the commercial environment? That also means on how you are doing the work for, building that team. And that's a really critical piece at this stage. And so we look at things like fractional C-level support. Most of the faculty, again, are not meant to be CEOs, and that's not really their aspiration or their intent. But how do we provide the right skill sets at the right time to be able to help de-risk that and help kind of convert that into a viable business? And then it also becomes a little bit more attractive on the other end for the investor community. And so it's our work to really build that pipeline, to develop that pipeline, and then also provide support in marketing, finance, legal, supply chain, production. How do we help attach them to facilities they may need to convert from testing out a device or to manufacturing that device? So there's so many different things that we can provide those resources that is really fundamental to the venture studio piece.
That's great. And yeah, and it's nice, technical founders are so important in launching tech companies. And you think of these things that need like legal and business and so on. But for many of our founders, they're going to need some expert in FDA approval or some regulatory thing, and so having some way to connect with people like that is huge. That's one challenge people face. What are some of the common startup challenges you see?
I think funding, I think that's universal. How do you attract funding? And especially for, a lot of these technologies, non-dilutive seed funding is really, really important. We know that, for example, we're doing a lot on providing micro grants for SBIR, STTR application support. We want to drive the number of applications up. We want to drive the success rate up. We know that's a really significant pocket of seed funding that they have access to. That is really underutilized. So we're aiming to change that. And I joke all the time, we have number one in innovation. We have been for 10 years. It's on all the buses around town. If you're in Arizona, you'll see number one in innovation. I want to have number one in SBIR on the bus as well. So I joke about building a bigger bus to have another couple number one in other arenas there. But funding, how do we help connect with funding? And again, when you talk about faculty and you talk about technologies from universities, time is of the essence. They're really, and oftentimes their research work is in direct conflict with the entrepreneurial work. So how do we help alleviate some of those capacity challenges? How do we help drive to some of those funding mechanisms? And then the other thing too is really connecting with the right people. So, we have researchers that are doing some amazing things in health. We're building a medical school. We've got the ASU Health Initiative, which is enormous. And some of them think, well, clinicals are commercialization strategies, and it's not. So, but you can understand how they got there if they're in that environment and they're not exposed to the entrepreneurial piece. So I'd say funding is always number one, but the right talent. How do you attract mentors that you can connect with them at the right times that help them understand how they can facilitate some of this, transition through inventing the technology to commercialization. So it's really about fostering and building that community and then sharing that information. We're very, very, very transparent. And that's critical. You can't just hold it and say, this is mine. But how do you really unfold that so that it's also in alignment with our ecosystem? We have Arizona Commerce Authority that does some amazing work. We've got a lot of entities around Arizona that are really, really fostering entrepreneurship and becoming a destination for entrepreneurship and technology. But you all have to be in sync, and so building those relationships is really vital. And how do we understand, again, leveraging each other's assets to the greater good?
Hmm. Yeah, no, those are huge obstacles. And you mentioned mentorship. Let's talk about that for a second. Many entrepreneurship centers will have some kind of mentorship program. And the thing is, especially if you're a technical founder, you need someone, some kind of mentor, but how do you find that person? What kind of system do you have for that?
Yeah, so for venture doubles, it really started our larger mentor pool. So we do have venture mentors that we bring on board. We pay them a small stipend, and so they're under the umbrella of an academic associate. And so we've had a number of them with us for a number of years, but always, again, it's the relationship building. It's being up and out and being out in the community. And ASU and Arizona has really been fostering a more give back approach. We're a fairly new big city in the way that, we've been evolving over a number of years, but we're really building that community of people that want to give back. Now, when you look at the mentors that I have on board for faculty, I have a small group of venture mentors that I brought on specifically for faculty. The recipe there is you've got to find those that have that deep expertise that can resonate with, that resonates with the faculty member, also married with that business acumen and that entrepreneurial experience. And so when you look at some of the mentors that I have around health, I have those that have that deep experience on launching their own startups, that understand the FDA approval and regulatory environment, that understand, really some of the capital needs early in order to kind of get beyond the valley of death. But again, I'll always center it back to those relationships. And how are you valuing people that you bring into the community, making sure that, you bring them to the table. I have a cohort strategy meeting tomorrow that I pulled together for health, and I'm drawing on areas of expertise. I want to get their feedback. We co-create these things. So it's also about making them feel like they are valued, they are part of it, they have ownership in it, and that they are really vested in it from that standpoint of really wanting our entrepreneurs to do well.
It's great. Such a great resource. And I have to ask you, since you mentioned it about building a medical school, this last summer they announced BYU will have a medical school. Where are you in the process and what happens next?
I believe it happens in a year. So it's been pretty rapid fire already. We've already got a lot of activities that are working around this. And it's thrilling for ASU that this is the next notch up in terms of what we're going to do. And it's so needed. So medical school, I believe, will come online in about a year or so. And already, as the teams have been assembled and, really driving a lot of enthusiasm and excitement. We just announced our first clinical partnership is with Honor Health for our medical school. So that's very exciting. And just continuing to grow our relationships with entities like Mayo Clinic and others. We have a number of different innovation zones that include health. So one is at Phoenix Bioscience Core, downtown Phoenix. We have another one in North Phoenix with Mayo Clinic. And so, just all the activity that's already been in the works and already been at play, the medical school is just really kind of the crowning jewel on top of that.
Yeah, I feel like a few people at BYU are as excited as I am about the new medical school. And I've got to think for your office, for the Edson Center, it's got to be a huge thing too. How do you see that affecting entrepreneurship?
It's going to be enormous. I'm so excited about it. And even when I was taking a look at the 91 faculty-led ventures we have in the pipeline, 60 are in health. And so the activity across ASU is enormous. The technologies that are being developed in our labs is absolutely inspiring. I mean, it's so you have the innovation that's bubbling up, the entrepreneurship that's happening in this space, combined with the medical school that's coming online, ASU Health Initiative. You can feel the shift in really in our community. And, there's a lot of work that U of A and others have done in that space as well. And so really coming together for a regional, this is going to be transformative. And when I say transformative too, not only in the sheer size and activity and scale of everything we're doing with that, but these technologies are so needed in our health system. They are so needed for our underserved communities. They are so needed to advance really pressing issues of our time. So when we're really at the ground floor of what's to come and knowing how transformative and how monumental it's going to be, it's very, very special.
Yeah, and there's been this big shift in recent years towards pharmaceutical companies looking to universities to do more of the research and development. So this is needed. We need these startups badly. So that's so great. Are there any other future trends you see at ASU or things you're excited about?
I know energy is going to be a big one. We're doing a lot around climate. We do a lot around sustainability. We're very well known in that space. There's a number microelectronics. That's another huge one for Arizona and for ASU and the work that we're doing around that. So we're really, we've been working with an initiative called Impact Arizona, and that's where I started building this faculty piece. Impact Arizona was designed to seed industry in the state, and that was workforce development, that's venture creation, that's working with industry, attracting industry. And it's around these larger buckets that we've developed science technology centers. Health is one of them, energy, advanced materials, human performance. And when you look at all of those, sustainable innovation, how that maps on to health and how that maps on to a number of these different really robust industry initiatives that are happening in our state. And so it's really thrilling that the investment is becoming more robust around these broader buckets. The industry is paying attention, that our faculty are doing the work in the labs. Our students are really embracing that and inventing wonderful new technologies as well and solutions. So all the way around, it's really for Arizona, for us to really be moving and the top of the heap there. It's going to be really spectacular run and ongoing.
That's great. Well, so if a professor at ASU is thinking, maybe I'll do an enterprise, maybe I won't, what's a thing or a couple things you would want them to know?
Connect with the resources. One thing that we've learned as we started building the faculty piece of this, there's an appetite for it. And that I think was the most thrilling when we started really intentionally building this for faculty with faculty. The excitement that they have, that there's some help for them, there's some support there. They don't have to do it alone. And so when they're on the fence with it, come talk to us, come connect with the resources. We're standing here, standing ready to support them. And so when you start seeing those things kind of click and you start seeing that spark, because I think, when the faculty are doing this work and developing the technologies that they are, there's always that hope, what if it can do this, or what if it solves this problem? It's their life's work. And so when they recognize that, you actually have opportunity beyond what you might have even imagined, that is really, you start to see that light bulb go off, you start to see that energy and that excitement, and they start really realizing this could be, so I think, just attaching the resources and informing us, what else do you need? What else can we help build? So I think that's been a fundamental aspect of how we view our work. We are there in support and in service to them. How can we add that value? And so that's always something we impart onto our entrepreneurs. How are you creating value? How are you solving a pain point? And we very much look at that the same way with faculty. So we want to keep co-creating and building this together. And we don't do it alone. We do it, broadly across ASU. But just try, see what happens.
Fantastic. Well, hey, thanks so much, Tracy. The football game this week, I hope is fun. Two great universities. But whatever happens, what what you're doing, what we're trying to do here in getting these companies launched is really helping solve problems for all of us. So thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you so much, David. It's a pleasure to be here.